I've had scenarios where I've accidentally bumped someone and I'm like, oh, sorry. And they're like, what for? I'm just like, oops.
Sorry for sorry.
Yeah.
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean, and visit thegermanyexperience.de for episodes, information about the show, and a lot more. Now, this week's guest is someone who arrived in Germany from Australia in the middle of a global pandemic, and we'll get to her story in a second. But before we do that, I want to talk about the charity challenge that is happening with Nicole of the Expat Cast and me right now. It's the Advent Challenge. We call it SEGEPADFO, which is the second ever Germany Expat Podcast Advent Donations Face-Off. And basically what it is we go head-to-head to see who can raise the most money for charity. And I have to say this. At the moment, right now, Nicole is winning. Now, it's early days. So we just had the second Advent, which means we've got 2 Advents left. I'm not that far behind Nicole, so there's time to catch up. So what I need you to do as listeners of the Germany Experience is go to thegermanyexperience.de/charity 2020, follow the link there and donate. And when you donate, be sure to write the German Experience in the public comments field. And if you want to know what you're donating to, this year we've chosen Über den Tellerrand as our charity of choice. And specifically, we're promoting a project of theirs in Freiburg where the money will go to the construction of a portable kitchen, which will help the Freiburg branch expand and improve their events. And if you want to hear more about the charity and about the project that we're supporting, take a listen to this clip from an interview that Nicole did with Tara from Über den Tellerrand. And you can hear the full interview over at the Expat Cast, so go and listen to it there if you want. But here's just a clip of what the charity is about and what project we're supporting.
At Über den Tellerrand, we create opportunities for people from different cultural backgrounds to come together, to get to know each other, and hopefully build friendships or learn from one another. Through bringing people together, we would like to get rid of the stereotypes that we have from each other and the judgments. I mean, everybody has them based on the things that we read, we hear, we watch. We're one way or another all biased. So what we're trying to do is to bring people together so that we can learn from each other and we can see that we have much more in common than those differences that we were always thinking of. So Über den Tellerrand usually has culinary events. So we usually get together to cook. We're building a mobile/portable hand cart kitchen, which is called Bolle. So a very creative person called Ute Peppersack designed this Bolle, this portable kitchen, as a part of her bachelor thesis and gave the design to Über den Tellerrand as an organization. How it works is that it's a kitchen that you could basically take everywhere, and you can invite people to get together and have an interactive cooking session and an experience outside.
So go over to thegermanyexperience.de/charity 2020 or click the link in the show notes and get donating. Now, we've also decided that we're doing a bunch of challenges along the way. And last week, if you remember, Nicole challenged me to come up with a jingle for SEGEPADFO by this week. Now, I'll be honest, the jingle is written, it exists, but I haven't recorded it yet. I'm getting to that. But I decided to counter-challenge Nicole. And what I've asked her to do is to provide some backing vocals for the SEGEPADFO jingle. So that is going to happen this week. She's going to provide her buttery smooth singing vocals to the SEGEPADFO jingle that I'm putting together. And you'll hear the result of that hopefully very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. And we also put together a video promo, which you can find on my Facebook page. And while we were doing that, we actually ended up with a lot of bloopers. So what we decided is, if we get a combined donation total of 200 euros, we'll release the bloopers from that promo. And believe it or not, for two podcasters, there are a lot of bloopers for a 2-minute promo. It is quite surprising, actually. So if you want to hear that, make sure you get to donating, and hopefully we can hit the €200 combined mark, and then we'll release the bloopers video for you to see the mistakes that we made. Now, on to my guest this week. What is it like to plan to move to Germany and then to move to Germany in the middle of a global pandemic? I wondered that myself. So when Cassie from Australia left me a voicemail message about arriving in Germany during this time, I just had to invite her on the show and see if she would be willing to tell her story, and she was. So Cassie started planning to continue her musical studies in Germany at the beginning of the year. And then, of course, the pandemic came along. It put a temporary hold on those plans. And in the end, she still managed to make the move. So I talked to her about her mindset during this turbulent year, why she stuck with her plans, and her first impressions of Germany now that she's here. Here's Cassie from Australia.
I'm from Australia. I grew up on the Gold Coast, so I grew up on the beach and then studied in Brisbane in Queensland, and then I moved down to Melbourne to do some more study. And now I'm in Germany, in Weimar.
Now Weimar is not a city that I hear a lot of people going to.
No, it's quite random. It's very small, but really beautiful. Yeah.
It's actually on my list of cities that I really desperately want to visit because it's got a lot of history there, of course, with Goethe and Schiller. I think that they either were born there or they spent a large time of their career there. Yeah,
exactly. It's incredible. Like, I would definitely recommend it, especially in summer. I imagine it would be so beautiful. And it's just crazy, like Goethe's house is here. It's it's fascinating coming from Australia and seeing all this history here. It's incredible.
Did you know Goethe and Schiller before you left Australia, or is that something you've learned recently with your move?
I'd obviously heard of them, but being here, and the Germans are so proud of them. You can't help but like
they are very proud. But I guess it's like us and Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have it's very embarrassing to admit, but I actually had never heard of either Goethe or Schiller before I moved to Germany.
Really?
And that's very embarrassing. In fact, I heard about them for the first time in German courses when I was doing some German courses in South Africa before I left. Yeah. And then our teacher happened to mention Goethe and Schiller. I'm like, oh, these seem like a big deal.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, you kind of need to get up to speed quickly once you get here.
Yeah. So you're in Weimar. So it's not that big as far as I know. It's like 60 to 70,000 people if I'm
it's really
mistaken.
Small. Yeah, and coming from Melbourne, I'm getting used to the small town lifestyle.
Yes.
It's very different.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can definitely imagine. So we'll get to why you're there. In fact, let's do that now. So why are you in Germany and specifically Weimar?
So I'm a musician. I play the flute, and basically I always wanted to go to Germany to do some further study, and I was put in touch with a really good flute teacher who teaches here in Weimar, and basically that led me to audition here, and then I was offered a place to do my master's. So that's basically why I'm here in this small town.
That was my biggest question, like what brings someone to Weimar, but I can imagine with it having such a big cultural scene that there must be a lot of music stuff going on there.
There's a really good Hochschule here, and it's really important for musicians to learn from really good teachers, so that's basically the main reason.
Wow, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's nice to finally be here because it's been in the works, especially with COVID. It's taken a lot longer to actually get here, so I'm just glad to have made it.
So I know a lot of people who've had to put their plans on hold, or it's kind of like fallen away, that their plans to come to Germany because of the whole coronavirus thing. So tell me how the lead up to this, what kind of hoops did you have to jump through, and did it look at some point like you maybe weren't going to be coming?
It was an interesting time. It was actually crazy because I came here in January to do an audition, and I flew China Southern and had a massive layover in China and was here for a week, and then went back to Australia. And and Corona definitely was around during that time. But I just think it's insane that I actually made a trip earlier this year. Anyway, so that happened, and I was offered a place once I got back to Australia. So I packed up my place in Melbourne in preparation to start in the summer semester, which was in April.
Right.
And then I stopped in Queensland on the way to do some work. And I had my suitcase and all my summer European gear, my suitcase ready to move over. And during that time, the borders closed for the German borders and the Australian borders. So I was stuck in Queensland.
What was your feeling then? Were you utterly disappointed, or were you just kind of caught up in whatever was going on then?
Yeah, I mean, everything was changing daily. It was so hard to know what to do or whether to try and then get turned away once I got to Germany. I really wasn't sure. Anyway, I made the decision to stay in Australia and just hope that it would open up again soon. But it turned out to be 6 months that I was in Australia before I could actually get here. So yeah.
How did you know you could? How was the time right after 6 months? Was it because Germany had eased up their lockdowns, or what made it that you could finally get to Germany?
It was actually also quite difficult to leave Australia. They put in a travel ban for Australians to leave, and you had to apply for an exemption and provide like numerous documents of proof saying that you had a legitimate reason to leave the country. And so I decided to apply for a student visa while I was still in Australia, and just to back up my application. And so once that all happened, the German borders reopened, and I also tried to get over here for the start of the next semester in September. So yeah, there was a few things that I had to get done.
But you were determined to make it happen.
Oh yeah. Getting the student visa was like my first taste of German bureaucracy. It was insane. It was, yeah. Especially during COVID. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I cannot even imagine. So to get from Australia to Germany is a pretty long flight in normal circumstances, but of course you've got the whole coronavirus thing happening now. How was that flight for you? What did that look like?
Well, I actually had my flight already booked for April. So fortunately, that airline actually honoured the flight when I flew later in the year. So I didn't have to pay anything extra, despite the prices being much higher. But it normally takes about 25 hours, I think, over 2 flights. But I had to add an extra flight interstate within Australia. So it definitely took longer, around 30 hours to get here. Mm-hmm. But also, I remember checking into my flight and asking the attendant. I asked, "Can I get a row to myself, please?" And he just laughed at me. He was like, "Oh, you'll be fine." And I got on the plane, and there was probably about 10 other people on one of those massive international planes. Both flights, there was probably under 20 people, which is so bizarre.
It is bizarre, but amazing. You'll never have another flight like that again.
I know. I slept so well. I got the row to myself. I've never slept so well on a flight.
That is the dream in some crazy way. But did you have to wear a mask the whole time?
Yeah, I had to wear a mask. But it's bizarre because you take the mask off when you eat.
I know. I know.
Yeah, I know. Weird. All the attendants were in the full protective PPE gear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the airports were so quiet. Yeah, in Abu Dhabi, everything was just closed, and I was just walking. It was very eerie. It's like a thriller movie when you're just walking through a dead airport by yourself.
Yeah, it's like what was that? I think it was 28 Days Later that has that amazing intro sequence with the guy just waking up in hospital and then walking through London. And I think it's quite a few minutes and no one's around. That's what coronavirus makes some cities feel like, I think.
If you've seen any of those videos where people are doing those drone shots and the cities are just dead, it's so like apocalyptic.
It is really apocalyptic. Yeah. It really is.
Crazy.
And now, of course, I'm assuming that because you grew up at the beach, you had pretty mild winters, and now we're heading into a winter here in Germany. How is that for you? Or have you experienced European winters before?
Not really, not to this extent. It's getting extremely cold, and
I know.
Yeah, and there's frost everywhere. It's insane. And I was excited this morning. I checked the weather and there's a little snowflake for next week. Yeah, but it's really cold. I need to buy some proper winter clothes. Yeah, it's just not warm enough.
Yeah, so you're still looking forward to winter.
Yeah, I think the novelty is still there for me. I'm sure it will wear off soon.
Yeah, I don't know, because for me, like the snow and everything, that still hasn't worn off. The novelty of that. Every year it's exciting, and every year it's fun. What makes it less fun is, I don't know how it is in your apartment, but we had winterdienst, a winter service, when we lived in a previous apartment, where each of us living in the apartment had to have a week of shoveling snow during winter. Yeah, it was in the contract. And then so when it would snow when it would come to our week, we were just like, please no snow this week, please no snow, because we were in charge of cleaning it up. So that made it less fun, but the novelty is still there for me after 13 years.
Yeah, I hope it stays the same for me. Yeah, I don't have to do any winterdienst though. Luckily.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good, Cassie. You landed a deal.
I'm lucky.
How is your German, by the way?
It's okay. I mean, I had all that time when I was stuck in Australia, so I decided that it would be a good opportunity to do some more study. So I was taking lessons, and I managed to do an intensive course right before I left, which sort of prepped me, and I was sort of hearing it every day just before I flew. So that helped. My course is all in German, so I'm really forced to understand, and I'm trying to speak more. I have lecturers and colleagues that I speak to in German, so it's okay.
That's one way to learn pretty fast, I guess, is if you're studying in German.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's hard. It's tough language, though. Oh my gosh, I'm just accepting that I just make lots of mistakes every day, and most of the time people still understand, so it's okay.
That's the most important thing. I figure if people understand me, then it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what got me through the early days.
Yeah, definitely. And I was listening to your podcast a lot, and a lot of people were sort of having a similar idea, and I was very stressed because I wanted to be perfect all the time, but no, it's just not possible.
It's not. It's really not. It's really not. And even I can tell you, but then again, I'm a bit lazy with learning German and so on. But even after 13 years, I am very far from perfect. My grammar is a mess. It is a mess. Grammar.
Oh gosh, I feel like my brain is just ticking over, trying to work out how to just structure a normal sentence. It's so annoying.
Yeah. So do you think that gets in the way of your learning? Because you said obviously you've got a really good flute professor or teacher or instructor. Do you think that's going to get in the way of you learning the flute, or are you able to do it despite the language barrier?
I can understand, which is the main thing. I think that's most important. It's just so in that sense, no, I don't think so. It's more just when you want to express yourself and respond, that's what I'm finding most frustrating, is that I just feel in German I'm much more shy and hesitant to speak, which is frustrating because it
is. So, but you'd obviously studied quite far with the flute before you'd left Australia, right? This is something that you've studied for a while.
Yeah, I've been playing since I was 10 years old, and I'm 25 now, so it's been a while.
It's been a while, and this is obviously the career that you're wanting to make this a career.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a bit difficult at the moment because arts have been so affected by COVID, and fortunately I'm still able to study at the moment, but there's no concerts or anything, which is really sad. But hopefully things will open up soon.
Yeah, I hope so, and there's positive signs of things like vaccinations that are coming soon, and who knows if that's gonna and so I think we're looking at a better 2021, but who actually knows at this point, Cassie?
I know. Just have to accept that everything is a mess.
Do you what has the effect been on Weimar? Have you been able to experience the city yet, or do you think that there's still a lot more to experience?
I actually feel kind of lucky that I'm in a small town in that sense, because the case numbers are low. There's I don't think there's been many this year at all. So I don't feel like I'm at risk as much as if I was in a bigger city. So I've been still able to explore. Well, I had a few weeks before we went back into lockdown where I could go to museums and things like that. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm a bit sad that cafes and bars and now museums again are closed because as a student, when you start your degree, like normally you're used to like big student welcome parties and things like that.
Yeah.
And the whole social aspect's been taken away, which makes it
Right.
quite difficult. And yeah, you know, you have the idea of the full expat experience when you move overseas, but yeah, we just have to sort of take a step back from that at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot of things that we're losing out on. Like if I think of across the board, like a lot of kids at a certain age are missing out on a normal teenage life where they would just meet up with their friends. And now it's been, you know, with this lockdown. Okay, lockdown light hasn't been that long, but it's still a long time in terms of teenagers. And then also think of people like you, foreigners coming to a country for the first time. You do miss out on part of the experience, but I think in your case, it's just cool that you're here, and you just have to, unfortunately, wait until things maybe hopefully get a bit better.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm very lucky to be here.
Yeah. Are you, so that social aspect, do you feel isolated at all, or do you still have enough contact for you to feel pretty comfortable?
I think initially meeting people is quite tough because you're not in those group situations and there's not that many like activities to do. I've still managed to make friends, and I still keep in contact with my family and friends back in Australia, which is really lucky. Yeah, it's hard because all those like spontaneous encounters which you normally get have sort of been taken away, but you sort of make do, you know.
Yeah, you do sort of make do. That is very, very accurate. But what is your mindset at the moment though? Are you feeling any sort of homesickness right now, or is it still pretty like you're in the honeymoon phase with Germany?
Not so much homesickness. I think I'm a bit sad that the Christmas markets are not on and those activities aren't happening.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad. It's just the Christmas spirit that I was looking forward to, but yeah, you can still buy Glühwein at the supermarket.
Not the same, Cassie. Not the same.
Yeah. I see pictures with my family and friends, and they've got the beautiful summer in Australia and the warm Christmas. So I think the cold is a little bit depressing sometimes. But I really like Germany, and I think it hasn't worn off just yet.
Yeah. I think what the problem is winter does go on for a long time in Germany. It's something that I found as a South African as well. Like in the beginning, it's very cool and it's nice if it snows. Like especially if it snows, then it's a great winter. But the thing is you probably had it in Weimar. It's the same as where we are now. It's just gray every day, gray and damp and kind of cold. And I think that is what brings people down. Is not necessarily the winter, but just this gray short days kind of thing.
Short days, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's annoying me at the moment. When it's the sun's setting at like 4:15, it's just, and then you're looking at your clock and it's still like 6:00 and you're like, oh.
And you're like in your pajamas ready to get into bed, or
exactly. I'm like, I've already had dinner. What am I going to do for the next few hours? Yes, and it's going to get worse.
Yes, it's going to get worse, but not much worse. I think we got December to get a little worse, and then it starts getting better. But I always find, and I think I may have discussed this with a guest recently, that February is the worst in Germany.
Okay,
yeah. that is our worst month for my wife and I, because it's just like, okay, winter, we're done now. Let's move on. Let's go. You know, let's move to spring, but it doesn't really happen that quickly.
Oh gosh, okay. I'm prepared now.
And what about culture shock? Have you had enough exposure to the German culture to have any culture shock, or things that are completely different to what you're used to?
Well, I think it's a bit of a weird scenario at the moment, but there's definitely been funny moments that I've had as an Australian where things are I've just been misunderstood. Yeah.
Like?
I think it's a lot of like like an Australian disposition that doesn't always translate into German culture very well. Like, I think I've had comments that like I seem very like open and just like up for anything, and perhaps happy is the wrong word. It's more like I don't know, open energy. I don't know. And people are like, "Oh, are you okay? You seem too happy. I'm a little bit unnerved by this." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry. I'll stop smiling." Yeah. Or things I've had scenarios where I've accidentally bumped someone and I'm like, "Oh, sorry." And they're like, "What for?" I'm just like, "Oops."
Sorry for sorry.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't even explain this. Like, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah, they are very, very strange about, in South Africa, we're also very polite and we say sorry a lot.
Yeah.
And that is something the Germans don't understand when you just apologize for everything.
Yeah.
It's just, why are you sorry?
What is the reason for this? It's not very practical.
Yeah, it is a very difficult mindset when you first come into contact with it, especially for the open, friendly, gregarious cultures like we come from. Yeah. Do you feel like you need to adjust? Like you have to tone it down a bit? Have you started doing that, or are you just being yourself?
I'm just like wary of fitting in, and also being more direct, and probably being a little bit less apologetic. I suppose I don't need to say sorry if I lightly bump someone.
Yeah.
Definitely trying to be more direct and that kind of thing. I've noticed.
Which is sometimes rough, because like you can plan to be, you can tell yourself, okay, I'm going to be more direct, but when you get into that situation, I think your cultural instinct just takes over and you behave the way that your instinct tells you to behave. Because I can say that some things that I've never lost is that apologizing for things, or even just if someone's mildly uncomfortable, they say something like, I don't know, I can't think of a good example, but I will say, "Oh, sorry about that." Yeah. And they're like, "What?" But I'm like, I'm not really sorry. I'm just trying to express that I'm empathizing with you. Like, I understand what you're going through, kind of thing. And I still do that even after all this time. So I think it's something that's hard to get rid of.
Yeah, it's so true. I definitely miss sarcasm as well, and sort of that kind of humor. I find that like making fun of yourself and being sarcastic doesn't really translate super well.
No. Can you think of an example of how you would do that, like how you would use sarcasm like that?
Oh, I definitely use it all the time when I'm saying, "Oh, great. Oh, I'm so excited for that," kind of thing. And they're like, "But it's not exciting. Why are you saying that?"
No, I mean the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. And you just can't explain those kind of situations. You're just like, "Oh, okay, never mind."
No. An example that another guest of mine, Nicole from the Expatcast, actually, an example that she had was she will often say when something goes wrong, she'll go like, "Ah, super," like, and they're like, "Why is the super? Why? Like, what is the point of that?" Like, no, it's not actually super. So.
It's so true. That's what happens to me.
So you think that is the biggest culture shock that you've noticed so far, is just the way that people experience you, and it's always fun talking to someone who's so new in Germany. I really appreciate it. It's always so much fun for me, because I've been here for so long that I sometimes forget those early phases of what it felt like how you're observing the culture for the first time. So it's always fun to hear.
So do you think that you've adjusted now, or?
Yes, I have. I have adjusted a little too well sometimes, because I can see that there's certain German qualities to my behavior that weren't there before. Yeah.
So do you think if you went back to South Africa, you're more German, I suppose?
Yeah. I've had my family tell me that I'm very aggressive now, which I'm still not. Like, in terms of Germans, I am not aggressive, but that comes across as aggressive because I'm just saying sometimes exactly what I think, like the Germans do. So I've kind of adopted that as well. So when I go back, I will just give my opinion, where in South Africa, we don't exactly do it directly. We'll say, typical South African would say like, It would be really nice if you could consider doing this and this and this. And we're actually asking you to do it, but we're asking you in a really nice way. But whereas now I would just like, could you do that kind of thing, like the Germans do? So that is something that's definitely changed. And I was told by my family members that I was a bit aggressive nowadays. And I'm just generally impatient when I go back to South Africa. Like I just expect a waiter at my table within 3 minutes of sitting down. And if it's not happening, which it doesn't in South Africa, I start getting like, where's the service? What's going on?
Yeah, wow.
So I definitely think that things have changed. But how long is your course for?
2 years.
And then the plan right now is that you would go back to Australia.
I don't know yet. I've been enjoying it here so far, so I'm sort of open to seeing where it goes.
Yeah. And I guess it's very early on anyway to know things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and how is it going to be to have the holidays away from home? You obviously can't plan to go back anytime soon.
That's the thing. When I left Australia, because there's such strict travel bans, it's so hard to get back into the country at the moment. So I knew once I left, it was going to be quite a permanent move. I don't know about you when you moved, but you know how you sort of had that idea in the back of your mind where you're like, oh, if it's really bad, I can always go back. I can always go back for Christmas or something like that, or someone can come and visit me. But now it's just not possible. So Christmas is going to be interesting. I really hope that I'll get the chance to see some friends if the light lockdown stays like this. But yeah, who knows when I'll be able to get back to Australia. It's really weird knowing that, I suppose.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. I know a few other Australians that are stranded as such, so I hope that we can have a stranded Christmas together. But yeah, it's really just dependent on travel and things like that.
Yeah. And what's your short-term view of things? Are you just getting through this period, or is there enough for you to enjoy right now with everything that's going on?
I think like my study is still really valuable and I'm still really enjoying that. So it's sort of keeping me going. I really hope universities and schools will be able to stay open. But yeah, I think taking it day by day is the best way at the moment. It's hard to know what will happen, in a month or longer.
And your tuition is not something obviously that you could do easily by video.
Well, I did take my first semester online. The university, I think a lot of the German universities offered it. I could opt for a free semester. Basically, if the semester wasn't what would be equivalent to in-person semester, I could ask for a free semester, which meant that I basically got a whole semester for nothing, and I can retake the semester at the end of my degree for nothing, which was crazy because I had other friends in like other countries and they were paying extreme international student fees, and I was just getting this whole free semester. I mean, in saying that, it was incredibly reduced, and having music lessons online is not ideal, but it was better than nothing.
Yeah.
So
So you're still pretty new here, Cassie, but is there anything that you've learned in the time that you've been here, in making the move during Corona times, that you could offer people who might be in the same situation as you were?
Oh gosh, it's a tricky time moving at the moment. I made sure that I was really prepared in terms of having an idea of what I need to organize once I got here, because I find like it's not as open to organize things like health insurance and phone stuff and that, and things like that, because going to like an office, there's always like that extra level of COVID safe procedure. So someone might be working from home, or they've got different opening hours or something like that, which just adds that extra level of, okay, now I need to make a phone call in German, and that layer of difficulty. So I made sure that I had researched those kind of organizational things before I got there, so I had an idea of what I needed to do and where I needed to go, because I find like that kind of thing's a little bit harder at the moment. I think being organized and having an idea of information and things like that helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did all that before. Do you have any tips of resources that you use quite often that get you by?
I listen to the podcast. Advice,
Yeah. Good answer, Cassie.
Yes,
Very good. Well played. Well played.
Yeah, there's heaps of information online, and I joined heaps of Facebook groups for expats and stuff like that. Just getting advice from people that are already here as well. I had friends that were here, so I was constantly messaging and asking for advice.
Yeah. So just try and prepare as much as possible before getting here. And
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Cassie, I really appreciate, first of all, you leaving a voicemail way back when for the podcast. I really enjoyed that voicemail, and thank you for joining me to talk about your experiences in getting to Germany and your thoughts so far.
Thanks for having me. So nice to chat.
And do you want people to find you online? Are you on Instagram or anywhere that you want people to go and visit?
Yeah, I mean, I have Facebook and Instagram. My name's Cassie Slater. So if anyone has like any questions or anything, feel free to contact me.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll put the links in the show notes.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Cassie.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for this week. Remember, SEGEPADFO, go to thegermanyexperience.de/charity 2020 and get donating there. Music in this episode this week by my band Hints and Janes, and additional music by Ryan Anderson until the end. Thank you for listening. Auf Wiederhören.